Hey girl, what's up?
Not much.
I'm loving the puffy thing that you have on your neck. What's the weather like there?
It's really cold, like 0 degrees. The wind is like bitter cold.
Really? 0 degrees, like 20-degree wind chill?
Yeah,
Okay, you're
nice.
not a weather person. Okay, whatever. Anyway, everybody, this is the Alicia that I have been telling you about. We are so proud of her. SCC has sent her as our global missionary. I love bragging about that, even though how all that happened. I don't know, but we call her a global missionary from SCC. So we want to share with the church what you're doing, how you were inspired to do overseas missions. So, how in the heck did all that happen? Overseas missions. How were you inspired to do that?
The first thing I went on a few mission trips in high school that were within the states, and so that started the desire to do missions, whether it be overseas or in the same town that I lived in. It didn't matter. That was starting. And so when I moved to Oklahoma, I got hooked up with All Star Ministries and went on several trips with them for 30 days in the summer. And so that's it. Just from there on, I just knew in my heart that that's where I was supposed to do this, do overseas missions.
Yeah, and you had mentioned it requires. We were talking. You're being all missionary and saying, it just requires obedience. Hearing from God, saying, I'm willing to do that. You also mentioned about fulfilling a need. You just had that in your heart to fulfill a need. I mean, how did you choose Latvia? I mean, of all the places in all the world, did you know they do missions in the Caribbean? That would have been awesome too. But how did you choose Latvia?
Um, God did it totally. I 2 years
Just like a
ago.
missionary. Just see, missionary speak. God did it, or whatever. Gosh. So yeah, tell us how God did it.
2 years ago, I didn't even know where Latvia was. I was asked to be a leader with All Star Ministries, and in that case, they just asked for a yes or no. Are you willing to be in leadership or not? And so I prayed about it and was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then a couple months later, they're like, oh, well, this is your team, and you're going to Latvia. And I was like, where's Latvia? Like, I had to look it up on a map. And
So would everybody sitting in the seats right now. So don't feel bad.
yeah. And then I came here, and God just totally opened my eyes to a need to work with the young girls here and just to see that they're from broken homes and from family situations that were much like mine growing up. And so God just kept putting that desire in my heart and He just brought me back to this place.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, it comes back to seeing a need and fulfilling a need. That's a huge part of what being a missionary is about, or being in missions is about. What were some of the obstacles that you faced leading up to taking on this adventure to Latvia?
the biggest and broadest would be just the unknown. Whether it be, I didn't know who was going to send me. I didn't know what exactly I would do. I didn't know where I would stay. I didn't know nothing. The only thing I knew is that God was calling me and I needed to be obedient. And it's a test of faith though when you don't see tangible things in front of you and you're just trusting God to provide and He has. He's been faithful, more faithful than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I mean
So,
it's all over Scripture where the unknown is faith. I mean, it's the evidence of things unseen. It's believing in that, and man, being doing what you're doing. That I think alone, if we shut this thing off right now, that's inspiring. Just jumping into the unknown. Alicia, how does someone become a missionary? How do you become how do you say I am a missionary? How do you become that?
it happens when you ask Jesus to come into your heart and you have a changed heart and you see how He changes your life, and from that moment on, you want to tell people about Him and you want to tell about the joy you have, and that's missionary. It's not just someone who leaves everything behind and goes to another country. it's the moment that you get your salvation and you receive that you become a missionary, I think.
Oh, so you mean you don't have to be like young and single, willing to travel the world and wear puffy things around your neck? I mean, that doesn't just make a missionary, huh? Yeah, that was cool. Yesterday you talked about that. You said, it was like a trick question. I was wanting to say, what is it? How do you become a missionary? And it's salvation. Every one of us who believe on the name of Christ are missionaries. And so I think even today, this talking to you, you've gone overseas, but each one of us need to be seeing this and saying, what is God calling me to do? So, okay, well, you're over there, you're over in Latvia. What is it you're actually doing there? I think that's what most of us want to know. What are you doing?
Pretty much just building relationships. And that's all encompassing. It's building relationships with my team. It's building relationships with the students. Anything from sitting down and having tea with somebody to planning the youth event so that we can come together and spend time in fellowship. And
wait, we sent you over there to have tea with somebody? I mean, that's missions? I mean, you're not like building houses and like taking rice to people are starving. I mean, isn't that what missions is about? You and I were joking about this. We were saying, that's what people think is that, if you're going to be called a missionary, you need to go over and be like suffering and finding that. And Jesus, what you're doing is the model of Jesus's ministry. That's what he did. What did he do right away? He established relationship with the apostles and he spent time with them. And you were saying that yesterday, that's what you're doing. You're raising up disciples in your mission to send them out. Send them out to do what though?
Hopefully our goal is to raise up leaders who will in turn go and reach their own people, who can go in and talk to these people in their heart language. Because yes, I'm learning Latvian, but it's harder to express your heart when it's not your first language, and it's harder for them to understand if it's not their first language. So hopefully, by pouring into them, spending time with them seeing the change, the difference between us and unbelievers, that they are then just propelled into doing that in return. It's like a pay it forward thing.
Yeah. You said you're developing youth services, doing stuff like that. I mean, in essence, being a part of like what Mark and Abby are doing over here, you're doing over there. You said you do something with drama or sketches or something like that. What's that all about?
Yeah, Matis has asked me, because one night, it was just spontaneous, we were doing how to share your testimony. And so he's like, okay, well, can you make some skits or whatever to show this? And so I had picked a couple of different people and he's like, okay, let's do this. And then we made it into like a talk show. And he was like, man, that was really good. Like, will you like teach students to like do some dramas so we can do them like on the street or in church or Friday nights or wherever? And so, it's another way to build relationships and to pour into their lives too if you're teaching them how to do skits. So.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be SCC if we didn't have the actual footage of a Latvian sketch over in Koldiga that Alicia has put on. So, ladies and gentlemen, Alicia set this up for us. What is happening in this skit?
The chair represents sin, and there's a paper on it, and you can't read what's on it, but it just says "grax," which is sin. So,
ducks? Did you say ducks?
Grax, like Greks.
Okay, just clearing that up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time, world premiere of The Chair.